Taiwan's military is reporting that the Chinese aircraft carrier, the Shandong, is sailing upwards to conduct military exercises. Seeing how China is increasing this sort of military activity, what can Taiwan do to boost its defense capabilities to counter this kind of threat?
I think part of it comes down to is that for so long Taiwan was looking for big ticket items, right? Things like big fighter aircrafts and tanks that signal to China, right, US commitment, but they don't necessarily do much in right. No matter how many tanks you have, that's not going to stop Chinese kind of excursions and Chinese carriers. And so a big thing for Taiwan is going to be, and to be fair, it is doing this currently, shifting to more asymmetric capabilities, asking for things like harpoon missiles, right? Like better radar that would allow them to fight off those kind of excursions, especially in the case of if a war breaks out, being able to stop invasions before they hit land is really important.
There's currently over $20 billion in U.S. defense equipment and weapons that still have not been delivered to Taiwan because of supply chain issues and influences from the pandemic. But what can Taiwan do in the meantime to try to resolve this backlog?
Taiwan's in a little bit of a pickle because when it comes to things like producing its own weapons on Taiwanese soil, I think that would be great. I think that's a great first step. But when it comes to something like co-production, there's weariness within DC because of fears of spies from China or other countries in Taiwan. But I do think production in Taiwan is a good start. And I also, my personal opinion is for the US, things like co production in Taiwan could be very useful. When it comes to looking at other countries, again, it's going to be hard for Taiwan to find a supplier because a lot of countries are worried about China.
There is a debate and a narrative in Washington about the trade off between giving weapons to Taiwan and giving weapons to Ukraine because there might be some overlap in the weapons that are given to two countries. How big is that overlap, and is that a cause for concern for Taiwan?
I think a big part of what's happening with the discussions in DC are this kind of what I view as a false choice between having to choose between Ukraine and Taiwan. And while I have written and I have some personal fears about the weapons that the US is sending to Ukraine, up until about a month ago, these weapons were not coming from the same stockpiles. Taiwan was looking to buy weapons and buy in this case, new weapons. And Ukraine was getting mainly excess defense stocks. Now, in the US, the National Defense Authorization Act from last year does, for the first time, authorize Taiwan to receive weapons through these US defense stocks through what's known as Presidential Drawdown Authority. So there definitely is overlap. What I would say is Taiwan has bigger fears from other US clients than Ukraine,